Hello folks! Well, in the last couple of sessions we've gone through and looked at getting connected to your computer science account on Otter, CSCI.VIU.ca, a little bit of basic Linux, a little bit of basic work on the system. What I want to do in this is just to quickly touch on a few things that might make life a little bit easier while you're programming on our servers. So, nothing that you have to do, but it might be stuff that comes in handy. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is getting onto some of the alternatives to Otter. So if you've done our SSH with your user ID, you've connected to CSCI.VIU.ca, you probably will be logged into, well, you'll certainly be logged into Otter. So let's say we take a look at an example here where in my Dave Stew account, I'm sitting on Otter. One of the things we can do is see how many other people are using the machine right now and what kind of a load that's creating on Otter. So if I type in uptime, it'll come back and tell me that right now there's 16 people on, and well, the load averages are pretty good because this is still a week before term starts, but this tells you how much of a load the server has in the last minute, the last 5 minutes, and the last 15 minutes. So if you're doing this in the middle of term and there's a ton of people working on assignments and things, you're going to find a lot more users and a lot heavier load, and you're going to find the response time suffers because of that. So we've got a bunch of other machines sitting in the labs. We can't physically get to them right now, but we can still connect to them. So these are named pup1 through pup16, I think, and cub1 through cub16. So what I'm going to do is from my account here, I'm just going to send a command over to one of those and see how busy it happens to be right now. Now, it's SSH, and then who I am, Dave Stew, and where I want to send the command. Let's say I decide I'm going to send it to pup1, and I want to run uptime over there, just to see how many people there are there and what the load is. And so you can see there's nobody on pup1 right now. Again, it's a week before term starts. And so it's got a pretty low, it's actually got a higher load average than Otter does. So somebody was apparently on there just a minute ago. However, so we can see that pup1 isn't very busy. And you can do the same thing with the others. Let's say I decide I'm going to take a look at pup14 and see what's going on over there. Oh, the first time you go to SSH to a server, it'll double check to make sure that you actually trust that machine. So you can simply say yes here, and then it goes through and runs the command for you. And again, there's nobody on pup14, so no load. So I can pick any of these machines, and let's say I decide I'm going to go to pup14. So it's SSH and -L because I want to log in as Dave Stew when I get over there. And I want to go to, what did I say, pup14. And so it goes off and it connects you there. And you're going to have access to the exact same set of files as you have on Otter. It's just you're not sharing a machine with a ton of other people. So that was the first of the things that I wanted to suggest, is to go off and make sure that you're actually on a reasonably unpopulated machine. I would suggest that you also go off and learn Chrome, learn Git, and some basic version control. Now, I've got a bunch of other videos on that I would suggest you go off and watch, but using version control can save you a ton of misery when it comes time to creating changes, keeping track of the changes that you've made, rolling back mistakes, and that kind of thing. But we'll save that for another day. I'd suggest that you learn an editor like Vim or Emacs. It does take, there's a bit of a learning curve to each of them, but they're much better editors to use. They give you a lot more power, a lot more control over what you're doing, and in the long run they will save you a lot of time. So I would recommend using those sometime in the near future. And then just one other practical little tip that I might suggest is, we just opened that one SSH window and we went over to pup 14 in. If you're doing some programming, it's handy to have one window open with the editor, so you're looking at the code that you're working on, and have another window open that you're actually running your Linux commands in, so you're doing your compiling and that kind of thing. So let's just take a quick example of that. Let's say that we've got that first window that the first SSH window we fired up. Let's take a look at a second one. So in this one, let's go to the same machine. So let's also SSH. How about I get the right account here? We'll SSH over to pup 14, I guess it was. And so we've got these two windows open. Let's say I want to work on, I don't know, something in my 265 directory. So, good grief, I can't type today. So let's go into our 265 directory. And what do we got there? We've got nothing. So let's say I want to do some work in here. I'm going to edit some program. And I want to use one window for editing and another window for compiling. So let's pop back over to that other window for just a second and make sure we get it to the same place. So you want to make sure they're both in the same directory. So I'm going to go into my 265 directory there. And in one of these, I'm going to edit a program. So I don't know, let's edit my experiment.cpp. And I do some basic coding, whatever it happens to be. So again, whatever editor you happen to like, you've got one window open that you're using to edit, and then we'll have our other window. And if the other window's in the same directory, remember, we're both in our 265 directory. So if I do an ls, I can see the file that I've got open in the other beastie. So I can start doing things like compiling in this one while I've got the edit window open in the other. So if you get error messages cropping up while you're compiling, you can pop over to the edit window to see what it's all about. It's just handy to have them both there. Again, the biggest trick is just making sure that you are actually in the same directory in both of them. Otherwise, you're going to be editing in one directory with one file and trying to compile a different file someplace else in some other directory. So other than that, I would certainly suggest this is something that you get used to. Right? Again, we'll save the discussion of version control and some tutorials on Vim and Emacs for other sessions. But hope that helped, and man, we'll see what else we can take a look at in the future.